Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Kevin, how are you this evening?
Doing good, man. Busy. How are you?
Doing all right. Before we get started here, I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Mortgage Right. Our good friend Herb Devine has been in the business for 27 years. He can help guide you through the mortgage process when you're ready. If you're looking to purchase your first home, sell your current home, purchase your next home, or refinance, then give him a call at 781 254 2846. Or you can shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his staff are available anytime, including nights and weekends. So give him a call now if you're ready to enter the real estate world and make your next purchase. All right, Kevin, we're going to start off with the Patriots like we always do. They improved to 5-2 on the season, sole possession of first place after a 31-13 win over the Tennessee Titans yesterday. They didn't get off to a good start, specifically the defense. They struggled out of the gate, falling behind early 10-3. But then Drake May hits Austin Hooper on a fade ball touchdown pass to tie the game. And then the Patriots, who were trailing 13-10 right before the half, were able to take the lead 17-13 on a 39-yard touchdown pass from May to Kayshon Boutte. They didn't look back from there. From that point forward, they outscored Tennessee 28-3 after they went up 13-10 en route to a big win. Third in a row, first time in franchise history that they've won 3 games in a row on the road. It's kind of hard to believe when you think about the dynasty years in the Belichick-Brady era, but had never been done before. First time it's been done. So, just some general thoughts on this one. And do you buy the narrative that's been out there today that they're the second best team in the AFC? I've got some thoughts on that.
Uh, so I'll start by saying, in yesterday's game story that I posted on our side, I legitimately think that you're looking at a possible 1 or 2 seed in the AFC. And now I'll preface that by saying Kansas City looks like Kansas City. But they also did it against the Raiders. I know Vegas beat you, but it was week 1. You were a much different team back in September than even you are now. Second best team in the AFC, maybe. I mean, I don't really believe in Indianapolis yet, but I think with this league being so wide open this year, you can at least allow yourself to think about hosting a home playoff divisional game, even. Like, I honestly think the league, again, is just so open that things are falling into place for you. And this turnaround is just, it's happening a little bit quicker than I think everyone expected. That's mostly thanks to the schedule, but you play who you have, right? So the fact that they have the third easiest schedule, I think, since 1978, it works in their favor. So you have an MVP candidate at quarterback. You have probably the coach of the year, or at least one of the favorites right now. And you have a team that's completely bought in to everything that's being sold to them. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, you can start to think pretty big with this team. Again, do I think they're going to win the Super Bowl? No, but given the landscape, they're as good as anybody in the entire NFL and definitely the AFC right now.
Yeah, I think that's putting the cart way before the horse. First of all, a couple of things. One, I don't think their success is strictly because of their schedule. I think it's because of Mike
Oh,
Vrabel, Drake May taking that second-year leap under Josh McDaniels.
of course.
They did a really good job fortifying the roster this offseason. Yes, they've taken advantage of the schedule, not fully, though, because you should have beat Vegas. As we saw yesterday, and as you mentioned, Vegas is terrible, okay, which is not a surprise. We knew that was a bad loss. They gave up 9 plays of over 20 yards. That's a team yesterday that had 3 first downs, and somehow they amassed 9 plays of over 20 yards against you week 1. That loss now is looking worse and worse by the week. I mean, that Raiders team is hot garbage. Are they the second best team in the AFC? No, I don't believe they are. I still think Buffalo is better than them. I think Kansas City is better than them. If Cincinnati were healthy, if Joe Burrow were healthy, I think Cincinnati would be better than them. I think if Baltimore wasn't off to this bad start and Lamar were healthy, you could probably make the argument that they're better than them. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, though. The reality is when you look at where things stand right now in the AFC, sure, currently they're the 2 seed if the playoffs were to start next week. All that being said, when the dust settles at the end of the year, will they be the 2 seed? I don't think they will be, but you never know. You made a good point in that not just the AFC, but the NFL as a whole is wide open this year. You can make the same argument about the NFC. So I think if you're a Patriots fan, you should be very pleased with where they're at 5-2 right now. 3 wins in a row. They got another potential winnable game on Sunday when they come back home to host the Cleveland Browns. But then you got a couple of games that I think will be true litmus tests for this football team. Atlanta comes to town November 2nd, and then you go to Tampa Bay. Those are 2 games that I think will tell us a lot more about this football team and who they could be, specifically that Tampa Bay game. Those 2 games will tell us a lot more of who they could be the second half of the year and down the stretch. I still think they have some big games coming up. Obviously, you got Buffalo in December here, game that you probably would have to imagine will get flexed. You don't know where Baltimore is going to be if they figure it out now coming out of the bye. That game in Baltimore could be a tough game. If by chance Joe Burrow is back for that Cincinnati game, that will be a tough game. Cincinnati's 3-4. They're still in the playoff mix. So I think that 5-2, you're in a good spot. You're the 2 seed. It's been a pleasant surprise. I think a lot of people would agree that they're ahead of schedule in terms of the quote-unquote rebuild. But I do think we need to pump the brakes, just as I said yesterday in the preview show about Drake May. Drake May is playing at an MVP caliber level, but now people are starting to talk about him being a young Tom Brady. And again, let's have more of a sample size before we start talking like that. It's just ridiculous. I don't really truly think, in my opinion, you can judge him until after this season. That's when we could really sit down, look at his first 2 years and say, okay, we think he's on this trajectory. We think he's on this path. To be sitting here saying he's a young Tom Brady, I just think is effing idiotic. But nonetheless, people are going to say what they want to say. He's playing lights out. Yesterday, of course, was a historical win for the Patriots. As I mentioned, first time in franchise history that they won 3 straight road games, 3 straight regular season road games. The other reason why it was a historic day yesterday, speaking of Drake May and Tom Brady, Drake May broke Brady's record for completion percentage. I believe he was at 91.5 yesterday. Brady, I want to say, was 85.3 or something. Bottom line is the kid continues to play well. 21 of 23 yesterday. Threw for over 200 yards, 2 touchdown passes. He's been lights out. And again, I think we talked about this last week. We've talked about this on our other shows. I think a lot of people are going to look at this and when they revisit that 2024 class and say, okay, maybe he's the best quarterback in the class. Certainly that's been a topic of conversation in recent weeks. He's playing really well right now. But you and I both know all it takes is one bad week, a week where he has maybe a turnover, an interception, and a fumble, or the very least an interception, and the narrative all of a sudden starts to change. But if he continues to play the way he's playing, yes, you're right. He's going to be in the MVP conversation and a potential front runner at that. I think, and I said this yesterday on the postgame show, I think a lot of his success, however, has to be credited to Josh McDaniels. McDaniels has done a tremendous job with Drake May. You see the difference, specifically when it comes to the decision-making and taking care of the football. He's playing at another level. How much credit do you give McDaniels? And I'll take it a step further. I'll ask you the same question I asked John Lyons. Would he have this kind of success if Josh McDaniels weren't his offensive coordinator?
I'll start with the second one first. No, but Alex Van Pelt deserves a little bit of credit for developing him last year. And you were on that pretty early as well. But I do think this offense is just better suited for Drake May. So 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. But overall, and I think we need to note, the offensive line has been pretty good. Not great. And obviously the running game finally got going yesterday. But in terms of protecting him, it really hasn't been that big of an issue this year. Doug Marrone deserves some credit as well. So I think in terms of the credit pie, you can divvy it up a bunch of different ways. But yeah, Josh McDaniels undoubtedly deserves a bunch of credit. And I think every week when we listen to him talk about Drake May, he's instilling confidence in him that I'm not sure the staff last year was able to. And again, Van Pelt did develop him to a certain extent, but on game days, there was something missing there. with that confidence for May. And you've heard and seen players talking about him playing with more swagger now and being more confident as a leader. We all saw the post game speech yesterday in the locker room. So, excuse me, I think a bunch of people deserve credit for this, Josh being one of them. But I think May is just maturing as well.
Yeah. No, he is. And I agree with you. And of course, as you mentioned, the running game finally got going yesterday. Patriots rushing for 175 yards in that win over Tennessee. Ramondre Stevenson specifically had 88 yards rushing and a touchdown. He got the first 5 or 6 touches of the game yesterday. Patriots clearly made a concerted effort to run the football. You can tell based on what they were running and their approach that was the plan all along, which was surprising to me from the standpoint of Tennessee in a lot of ways defensively. Statistically was a lot like New Orleans the week before, where their secondary really struggles with giving up big plays. I thought for sure that the Patriots would take a similar approach this week and push the ball down the field. Eventually they did, but I do think that it was nice to see the running game get going. They need more balance. They need that running game to be a factor. You go back to that New Orleans game, they couldn't get into 4-minute mode and close that game out because they couldn't run the football. So it was nice to see. And of course, it helps when a guy like Jeffrey Simmons leaves the game early, but it was nice to see them not only run the football, but just as importantly, make a concerted effort to run the football, something that they're going to need to do as the season goes on. One other thing, though, and I said this to Lions yesterday that's concerning to me, is the defense continues to come out of the gate slow. They've given up opening drive scores in 5 of their 7 games. I'd like to see that trend come to an end. I want to see them do a better job of getting off the field earlier in games. I mean, they made Cam Ward look like a future Hall of Famer in the first 10 minutes of that game yesterday. They need to be better out of the gates. And that the kid's talented. You saw it. Cam Ward could potentially be a top 10, top 15 quarterback in this league in a couple of years. He's got a long way to go to be top 10, but he's certainly a potential top 15 guy. But again, they couldn't get pressure on him. The secondary, even with a healthy Christian Gonzalez, is a concern to me. They really have a hard time with sticking on guys, especially in man coverage. This defense gets better as the game went on, and they shut them out in the second half. But you still want to see them get off to a better start because this could come back to bite this team in the ass later on in the year.
Yeah, they've all talked about it. They've all acknowledged it as well. The one you mentioned, the secondary, the biggest concern to me is Carlton Davis. And I know I've been saying this for a while, and you keep talking me off the ledge with him, but like that play where he falls down over the middle, I think it was second quarter, maybe first quarter yesterday. Like that can't happen for a guy that's making as much money as he's making. And I know
it can't happen. He could be making 50 cents an hour and it can't happen.
right. So he worries me quite a bit because I feel like he's always about to get hurt. Like just the way he goes down. When he's out there and playing well, he's exactly what you hoped he would be alongside Gonzalez. But he worries me. Overall, though, you're right. And again, they acknowledge it. But the way they dominated the second half of that game, I know you can't dismiss it because obviously, like you said, it's an issue, but they're making up for it. You know what I mean? So it's nice to see that they're closing the way that they are. But yeah, it's got to get fixed. And that sort of goes back to, what I asked a few players today and Coach Vrabel, and that's transferring the success on the road to at home now. They're still 1-2 at home. Like if you remember right, we talked a few weeks ago a lot about them being so bad at home the last few years. They beat Carolina and then, out of sight, out of mind for the last 3 weeks. They've won, but they're still 1-2 at home coming into a stretch here where they have 5 of the next 7 at Gillette. So if that defense is going to fix this and get off to hot starts, what better place to do it than at home?
Yeah, and that's crazy when you think about the way that their schedule stacks up. 5 of the next 7 are at home. That's nuts. That just means you and I are going to be pretty busy along with everybody else who covers the team. The first game in that stretch is this Sunday. Of course, the Cleveland Browns come to town. They're coming off a 31-6 demolishing. Is that even a word? Demolishing? I think I made it up. Or demolition. I think it's demolition.
Yeah,
the tag team, not demolishing. Yeah, I mean, I'm 50 and I'm making up words now, but they're coming off a 31-6 thrashing. How about we say thrashing? thrashing of the Miami Dolphins, who, by the way, have thrown in the towel. They're done. Mike McDaniel's done. He's a dead man walking. I mean,
Which
Tua Tagovailoa is a walking interception. He was a mess yesterday. And never mind the fact that team cannot play in inclement weather. It's
no,
not just the 32 degrees thing with them. It's also they can't play in any kind of condition. So they're a mess. Look, this is a nice win for Cleveland. They improved to 2-5, but when you peel the layers back when it comes to the game onion, if you will, the underlying numbers don't lie here. I mean, Dylan Gabriel yesterday was 13 of 18 for 116 yards, no touchdown passes, passer rating of 89. They rushed for 104 yards. The rookie running back from Ohio State, Quinshawn Junkins, led them with 25 carries for 84 yards. He did have 3 touchdowns. The thing that concerns me with this Cleveland team, Kevin, is their defense. Of course, it starts with Myles Garrett, future Hall of Famer, arguably, if not the best pass rusher in the league, certainly one of the 3 best pass rushers in the league. Will Campbell's going to have a big test on his hands come Sunday. Their defense concerns me. But I do think if the Patriots can figure it out early in this game defensively, they should be able to shut this offense down. They don't have a lot of pieces. Even in the passing game, rookie tight end Harold Fannin led them in receiving yesterday. They don't really have a guy outside of Jerry Jeudy that you have to worry about that much on the perimeter. One thing you don't want to allow this team to do, and this is where Kevin Stefanski is a really good coach, you don't want to allow them to get that running game going because then that sets up their bootleg and play action game, and Stefanski's a big bootleg play action game. Our old friend Nick Charlton is on the staff there. He's the run game coordinator, so Nick's doing a good job, not a surprise. Terrific coach. Look, this is one of those games where if you show up, you play well, you take care of the football, you limit the mistakes, you should win. You're going to be favorite, you should win. However, an early turnover, not getting them off the field early in the game, letting them score first and letting them carry the play, now all of a sudden you're going to have a game on your hands, and it's going to become a big problem. Winnable game, but the Patriots need to get off to a good start and play clean in order to win it.
I go back to my whole home thing. They're ready to go already. And Mike Vrabel said today, look, we know we have to make this a hard place for other teams to operate. So, again, going back to that, to having that fast start, I think they're going to have one this week. And it feels like to me this ends up being a lot like the Carolina game, where offense might not be great at times, but defense gives you good field position. Or Marcus Jones gives you good field position. I think you see 3 or 4 drives here that are starting across midfield. So it's that type of game, in my opinion. So, yeah, you're right. The defense does worry me a little bit. Myles Garrett should worry anybody, but I go back to the
He's going to be
Vegas.
a problem. He's going to
Of
give
course.
Campbell a workout.
Yeah. The only thing is, I go back to the Vegas game, and yes, you lost, but I don't remember Max Crosby really going off. So I feel like they might, be able to handle him sort of like they did Max Crosby as well. Different player, I know. I think Myles Garrett is probably better, or at least they're, 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it. But I just don't see them really struggling here. I think they're too hot right now, and I think that they know what they're doing wrong and want to fix it. That's the sign of a good team when you've won 4 straight and you're going back to work saying we can be so much better. So, yes, running game should be a little bit concerning, but again, I feel like this is a 3-phase kind of game where special teams takes over. Offense is beneficiary of some defense and special teams turnovers here and there. I think it's a full team win, and I honestly think this looks a lot like the Carolina game did when, we were talking to John Lyons post game.
Yeah, and this is another reunion game for Mike Vrabel. Of course, he was a consultant last year on the Browns staff.
And he talked about that today, too.
He got to do a lot more than just coach defense, so it'll be another reunion game for him. And by the way, I know he downplayed it last week and said this isn't a win-win for the Gipper game, but it had to feel good for him and Zach Kerr and the rest of the guys that were in Tennessee, Tony Dews with him. That had to feel good yesterday, especially at the end of the game when the fans are chanting Vrabel, Vrabel. I don't think it was just Patriot fans that were there chanting Vrabel, Vrabel. I'm sure there were some Titan fans that joined into that as well. Like I said, I really believe that part of the reason why Tennessee fired Brian Callahan last week and not this week is because they knew Vrabel was coming to town. He was popular there with the fans. They knew that they didn't want Callahan losing to Vrabel and then them turning around and saying, well, we're firing him because he lost, but also because he lost to Vrabel. They wanted to save face. That's why they did it. Whatever. People know my opinions on that. I thought it was a gutless move. But overall, you know that this game meant more to Vrabel than he let on during the week.
100%. And I love the player reaction after the game and all of them saying, yeah, we thank him for downplaying it this week and focusing on us, but we wanted to win it for him. And I go back to the Drake May speech post game. We love playing for you, and we love you, coach. Like the difference in dynamic in just a year with guys wanting to play for certain coaches is just it's huge, and you can't overstate it. You've been around football forever. When a team is buying into the messaging, they'll do a lot for you that they weren't willing to do for other people. So I don't think you can overstate how much that win meant to the team yesterday, not just Vrabel.
Yeah. And I think, look, I think a lot of guys like playing for Gerard Mayo as well. I think a lot of guys love playing for Belichick, even though you wouldn't think that based on the way he treated them and the way he ran the organization. But a lot of that is also winning. You don't.
Oh yeah,
With all due respect, you don't love your coach as much if you're not winning. Let's be honest here. And I don't care what the sport is. Winning is a big reason why people feel that way. When you're having success, everybody's having a good time. They can see it, they can feel it. It's huge. If you're 2-5, even if you win that game yesterday and you're now 2-5, yes, they're excited afterwards. It's still a positive locker room, but I don't think it's the lovey-dovey vibes that you're getting when you improve to 5-2. It's just a different feel. But again, it speaks to the job that Vrabel and this staff have done to change the culture in one short year, to turn everything around, to implement their culture. Guys have bought into your point. They want to go to work every day. They know that it's a competitive environment. They're playing for a guy that played the game so he can understand them and what they're going through. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He's had success as a head coach before. It's easy to buy into him. His resume helps him do that. But having the success on the field also is a big reason why. Again, so far, Patriot players have loved playing for Mike Vrabel. You are watching/listening to the New England Football Show, presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. We do want to remind you that if you are looking to sell your current home, purchase your next home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. Or you can shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Kevin, let's shift here and talk some college football. And, of course, we're going to start with the game that you and I were at on Saturday. Double coverage of the Boston College UConn game. UConn with an impressive 38-23 win over Boston College. That's 2 wins for the Huskies in the last 3 meetings against the Eagles. And I kind of want to double cover it again in this conversation. And I actually want to start with UConn, and then I want to talk about Boston College because there's a lot to unpack there based on these post-game press conferences, and I want to hit on both of them. For UConn, this is a supremely impressive win. Joe Fagnano has a career day, throws 4 touchdown passes, rushes for a 5th, throws for 362 yards. After the game, Fagnano basically said, look, I'm comfortable in the system. What we did today is the expectation. We have the talent to do this on a week-to-week basis. For UConn, this was a prove-it game. I think even coming into last week, despite Boston College's struggles, I think a lot of people thought that they were still going to be overmatched and they should still lose this game. And I think both Jim Mora, his staff, the players, the fan base, they all had a chip on their shoulder. And I think that they were vindicated on Saturday because, let's face it, the Boston College faithful didn't exactly take them serious. There was a lot of stupid shit being said on social media by those people in regards to UConn. I called a member of the media out for some of the stupid stuff he said in regards to Jim Mora. And what do I get as a reward for that? Some loser BC social media guy calls me a fat bitch. That's my reward for
I missed that one.
Yeah, it was one of the comments when I defended Mora's credentials and how you it really bothered me. And I'm not going to single out the member of the media. I'm not going to do that to him. But you have to be really ignorant to think that this guy, well, he can't get a job anywhere else, or he's stuck at UConn. Are you kidding me? This guy's been a two-time NFL head coach. He has a winning record at UCLA. He's worked wonders with this program. He's in his early 60s. I still think he's going to be a prime candidate for some of these openings that are out there based on what he's done this year, especially if, let's say, they win another 9 games in a bowl game again. So the idea that what has he ever done, or he can't get a head job, so he has to coach at UConn, what are you talking about? Like, it's one thing to support your team, and it's another thing to come off like a total asshat, and then to have people in that fan base coming out and defending that gibberish and saying stupid shit. It's just like, what are we doing here? Like, look at this objectively. Objectively speaking, Boston College is 1-6. Okay, none of us saw that coming, but that doesn't mean you have to shit on UConn and Jim Mora and what they've done there. That just shows that you're a part-timer, you're a fake fan, you're not really invested, and this goes even for people that cover the team, because if you really were invested, you wouldn't put out stupid-ass content like that, and some of these idiots on social media wouldn't defend that content. Nonetheless, I digress. For UConn, this is a huge win. Now, they got to follow it up with a win this week at Rice. If they go down there and lose, then that takes the starch out of it. But I thought they were really impressive, Kevin. They struggled defensively early on. Boston College had their way with them physically. But overall, offensively, they pretty much could have done whatever they wanted. They could have scored a couple more times. And even if you look back on that game, and I went back and watched it, UConn had opportunities throughout that game where they could have scored at least 1 or 2 more times, and they didn't. Bottom line, this was a really impressive performance by the Huskies.
I don't know where to start. It's back-to-back weekends with a rant. I like it. Or back-to-back weeks, I should say. So, look, I'll start with the offense. Anybody that would listen last week, I told them UConn's going to score against BC. That secondary was banged up. Linebackers are banged up. There's 0 pass rush. That wasn't surprising.
Your point, Sky Bell, 10 catches, over 100 yards and a touchdown.
And that's even without Cam Edwards going off.
And never mind the fact that Juice Vereen had 2 touchdowns in that game.
So that wasn't surprising. What was surprising to me, and as you know, I know we're going to get to BC, but to sort of intertwine this, I knew Grayson James was starting for about a week. What surprised me was the fact that the BC red zone offense struggled as much as they did against UConn. The UConn defense held them to field goals early, and it mattered because they ended up pulling away in the second half. So that red zone defense for UConn was arguably the most surprising thing to me of the day. They don't have the same guys that we've talked about, like NFL draft picks over the last few years, but I thought their defense had one of their better days of the year. We came in thinking
7 sacks.
Yeah.
I left to go downstairs with 5 minutes left. They had 5 sacks.
And Jim Moore had to correct.
I asked Coach Moore about that, and he says, actually, we had 7, but I didn't know that either. So he kind of he went easy on me there. But it's, to your point about their defense, they bent, but they didn't break. And when they didn't get stops in the red zone, they got them. But in the second half, they buckled down against the run. Mm-hmm. They were able to physically match up better. They made some really nice adjustments at the half. But the other thing is they really got after Grayson James. And, of course, Boston College is playing from behind. They have to throw. But that UConn defense was really impressive in the second half as well. Obviously, the offense was good all day. But the defense deserves a lot of credit for their performance in the second half as well.
Yeah, just especially because I think we both thought it was probably going to be a shootout going in. I mean, this UConn defense gave up 44 to Delaware just a few weeks ago. So to do what they did in that spot, and I know, again, BC is down, maybe as down as they've been in my lifetime, and I don't think that's exaggeration. This is 30 years-ish bad for BC, but UConn was playing with nothing to lose, and I think that helped as well. You could feel it really from pregame on. There was no pressure at all on UConn. It was all on BC.
Oh, they were playing with most money, and it was.
And the UConn fan base showed up as well. That entire right side was packed with UConn fans. They dominated the tailgate scene all day. So overall, like you said, really a progress win for Jim Moore. And I thought his answer to you, just asking about physically matching up with BC, was really interesting after the game as well. And he credited a lot of people, which we're going to get to BC and their issues, He credited people for donating to NIL and making sure that they have an
But he did a
ability.
really nice job. And just to kind of go back for a second.
Yeah,
So 2 years ago when they played here, Boston College beat them. And one of the things that really resonated with me when I was in that press conference was when Coach Morris said, look, I had asked him then, what was the difference between playing them last year at the Rent and this year here? And he flat out came out and said it. Physically, they're a much different team than they were last year. And you can clearly tell that they invested in getting better up front and being a more physical team and a better team, a more skilled team. So basically, he said they weren't the same team we beat last year. This was a different team. So I felt the need to ask him about that again because this time around, UConn ended up, and again, early on, Boston College dominated physically, especially the offensive line, but UConn was able to match that physicality this time around. And so I felt, you know what? I think it would be a good opportunity to ask him, have you bridged that gap physically? Because it was an issue 2 years ago, the last time you played here. And to your point, I thought his answer was really good. Now, he didn't come out and necessarily say, well, we've spent a lot of money on NIL, and that's why
but he basically said it.
we're better. But he said it at the end. He snuck it in there. He
Yeah.
thanked everybody and talked about the importance of everybody buying in. And then at the end, he talked about people investing their hard-earned money. So you read between the lines. Bottom line is UConn has a legitimate NIL initiative, and the other two FBS programs in the area, I don't want to say
Yeah.
they don't because they do, but it's not at that level yet.
No, and I think his exact quote to you was when we walked on the field against BC, we looked like we belong. And
Yep.
that's massive. That's half the battle when you're a UConn playing a school like BC, when you're not in a conference, when you're trying to show that you can be taken seriously again. They're no longer, and I wrote this Saturday, you can no longer mock UConn by any stretch of the
But they
imagination.
will. Some of the BC faithful and others will. I mean,
Which
you
is,
see it at the national level. It's still a basketball school. As
yeah,
soon as they win in football, I don't understand why people feel the need to remind us that they're a basketball school. Just because they're winning in football, guess what? They're the 12th ranked team in hockey as well. Just
yeah.
because they win in other sports, it doesn't mean that somehow they're a threat to the basketball programs. We know that UConn is and probably will always be a basketball school, but I'm going to remind you, just because they're a basketball school, I'm telling you right now, and I've said this for a while now, Kevin, if they can get into a conference and they can get this football program into a conference, I still think basketball is not going to have a choice. They're going to have to go with them. They're going to have to get out of the Big East. And so as much as we know it's a hoop school, football drives the money wagon. And if this football program can start to generate legitimate revenue during the regular season, they're going to drive some of that wagon to where they're going to end up in another conference. And basketball is going to have no choice but to go with them.
And to add on to that, this type of win, especially against a Northeast rival, it's huge for recruiting.
Huge.
You're going to get
Huge.
those
If
kids
you're
from
recruiting the
Jersey,
same kids, man, that's a selling point now.
especially those Jersey and New York kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a huge day for them.
Well, UConn has always recruited Massachusetts as well.
Yes,
They've
but
got a
especially,
lot of good players out of here through the years.
but BC on the other hand is recruiting Jersey and those Catholic schools there very hard. So that kind of win, it goes a long, long way in the offseason. That the win can't be overstated. To your point, you got to go beat Rice, and you got to probably win at least 9 games this year now to really make it mean something. But like I said, UConn needs to be taken seriously on a national level now. And it's funny you brought up the coaching thing earlier with him with Mora. I said to our friend Andrew Callahan, who's obviously with the Boston Herald, the UConn alum. I said today he's going to start getting looks, maybe at the end of this year. I would not be surprised if he starts getting interviews other places. 3 bowl games in 4 years with that program. They were on the UMass level, and I know we're going to get to UMass. It is night and day now. It really, you can make the argument that BC is closer to UMass at this point than UConn is, which is crazy to say.
So let's pivot here and talk Boston College. Dropped to 1-6. Big game on Saturday night in Louisville, primetime on the ACC network. Look, one of the things that really resonated with me after the game was Bill O'Brien saying, basically, I don't know how to fix this.
He said, I can't fix this.
Right.
It's not great.
I saying I can't fix this is not a good look. I get it. But if a guy like O'Brien, who's coached around some of the best coaches of all time, think about it. He's probably coached with the two greatest coaches of all time,
And the best
NFL and
player of all
college,
time.
Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. If a guy who's been around Belichick and Saban and learned from those guys is telling you, I can't fix it, that's a problem. That means that this program is broken beyond repair. And I didn't know how to take that when I saw that. When I saw him say those exact words, I can't fix it, I thought to myself, either he's setting the table to move on after the season, and he made it very clear he's not a quitter, he's a fighter. He said all the right things after the fact, but that was a very telling comment to me. That just illustrates where this program is at right now. And now it begs the question, can this team win a game the rest of the way? I mean, their schedule is tough. You got Louisville this week, Notre Dame, SMU, Georgia Tech, Syracuse. Maybe there's one win there. I mean, this team is staring at 2-10 at best at this point.
So I wasn't around for is it Bickle, the old head coach?
No. Jack Bicknell.
No, thank you.
I don't know who Bicknell is. And it's also Romeo Dobbs, not Romeo Dobbs.
Again, it goes to show I don't remember the glory days.
It's not that you don't remember. You just suck with names.
Well, no, the glory days of BC. Well, that yes and no.
Jack Bicknell was, in the 80s.
So if they do go 1-11, which I think
Cowboy Jack.
Yes.
If they haven't been, if they go 1-11, they haven't been 1-11 since what? I think 77.
That's why I brought up the name.
Yeah,
it'd be since him. So you're looking at historically bad right now. We've talked about this 100 different ways. There's really two things that are wrong, and Bill O'Brien is always going to say the right thing. We'll say it for him, or I will. If BC wants to be taken seriously, you have to buy talent now. It is what it is. If they don't want to spend the money or make the commitment to win at the level or the commitment that needs to be made to win at a certain level right now, they're going to be stuck in mediocrity forever, and they're going to have your fan base saying we should drop to FCS. Now, yes, that's ridiculous, but that's the point.
That's never going to happen.
Of course, there's too much money involved. But
it's not even the money. That's never going to happen. They're never going to be an FCS program. I don't know who the stupid ass idiots out there that are saying that.
Yes,
but
you do.
It's probably the same, Kirk who called me a fat bitch. But the point is, that's idiotic. That's idiotic. It's never going to happen. Just like people's immediate default is fire the coach, drop the program, drop the just shut the F up. That's not happening. Don't say it. Continue. I'm not telling you to shut the F up, by the way. I'm telling the idiots who are saying that to shut the F up.
Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last.
Nope. I like to tell people to shut the F up, so you're right.
I'm with you. So, no, look, it's two things. It's not spending the money for enough talent, and it's the injuries. And I know it sounds cliche.
Yes, you're right on both fronts, but I'll take it a step further, man. When you're this bad, the roster's not good enough. And we love the kids over there. They're great kids. They're great to cover.
Yeah, and I hate to say it.
On them.
No.
Right, but they're not good enough. And I think it goes beyond buying players. You have to evaluate. I'm assuming O'Brien's back next year, okay? If I'm him, obviously there are going to be staff changes.
I know where you're going.
The other part of it is, and you know me, I hate talking about coaches losing their jobs.
Yep.
I've been a coach for 30 years. I refuse to go there. I'm not going to do it. But it goes beyond that now. You also have to look at what are your recruiting practices with high school players?
Well,
are you over recruiting specific areas? Should you be recruiting other areas more? One of the things, and I know Boston College fans, not all, may agree with me on this, one of the things that I thought Jeff Affley did really well was he expanded Boston College's recruiting base. They were more of a national program. Reed Harris is a Montana kid.
Yeah.
I think that Bill O'Brien, and again, he's in essence only had one full recruiting cycle, and their 2026 class is good. It's a top 30 class. But I do think that when you're talking about recruiting high school players, while they are recruiting nationally, they have to look at where they're recruiting and who they're recruiting, because clearly there isn't enough talent on this roster. look, we can sit here and talk about NIL all we want with this program. It's never going to be easy to get players to come here. It's not just going to be about the money. The admissions process is a big part of this as well. And unless Boston College and the powers that be are willing to loosen up admissions and say we're willing to take guys that may not necessarily fit our academic profile, it's not going to matter how much money you have in that war chest. You can have millions of dollars to spend. You've got to be able to get guys in the school. And Boston College is still a high-end academic school, and it's hard to get guys in there sometimes.
So,
If I were Bill O'Brien, I will say this real quick. I
yep.
would look at how's Clark Lee doing this at Vanderbilt? How's he doing it there? Because I would take some time and see what they're doing, because that's a high-end academic school, and he's getting it done in the SEC. They just beat LSU last weekend. So they've got a lot of work to do, and they've got a lot of self-scouting to do here the rest of the season and obviously going into the offseason. Real quick, our good buddy Sam Knox jumps in. Of course, the season I get season tickets, they are 1-6. Sam then goes on to say that he's still getting them next year because he is #loyal. Sam, always great to hear from you, my friend. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. And yes, stay loyal because they could turn this thing around. Go ahead.
So, and to your previous point, look at Virginia as well. But
Yes,
they also
great.
they brought in 31 portal kids, which takes money. So, to go back to your recruiting question, though, I honestly think the problem is you can only recruit a certain type of player because you're not going to pay the elite of the elite. So you can only look at those 3-star kids or whatever it is, the 2-star kids. Well, now you're hampering the scouts and the coaching staff during the evaluation. But I also get your point where Halfley figured it out. So there's a balance there, and I get that. So I
Well,
think
Heffley was also recruiting 4-star talent. He was getting 4-star talent to commit here. Now, a lot of those guys didn't stay, but my point
right.
is he was getting 4-star talent to come here. So was Steve Addazio. Steve Addazio had a lot of 3-4-star type of guys like Zay Flowers come here. A.J. Dillon. He told him he could play tailback. Michigan wanted him to play fullback. He got him to come here.
Yeah.
My point is those guys don't get enough credit for the job they did recruiting. I think a big part of where this program is right now, yes, the portal is important. Yes, your NIL is important, but you still need to recruit high school talent. And I'm going to say something that's probably not going to be very popular with the BC faithful, but it might be time to get away from the 40-year degree slogan where your commitment to Boston College is a 40-year commitment. It's great that these
Kids
guys
don't
can
care.
graduate and go off and get a job in the financial sector and make a lot of money. But today's kid, especially in the portal, they want to know they're going to go somewhere where they're going to get paid and developed. They're not thinking about their cushy job at Goldman Sachs or wherever else they're going to work in 5 years. They want to get into the league and play in the league for a long time.
No, and going back to the talent, again, I know it's cliche and people don't want to hear it. The injuries that they've had, particularly on defense, are killers. They're the elite of the elite players on that BC roster. It's Amari Jackson. It's Bam Crouch. It's Q Hutchins playing with a mid on. It's Max Tucker playing one snap because he's banged up. Like, it is what it is this year with the injuries. And I think Saturday, people don't get it. It's just those kids are just inexperienced. It's a lot of freshmen and sophomores that have never played Division I football. I don't care if it's against UConn. You're going to get run out of the building sometimes when you haven't played that speed yet. So it's a combination of everything for this team this year. It's just everything is snowballed downhill. It's probably only going to get worse. They're probably going to be in prime time 3 more times. You got to think Notre Dame might be this weekend, and then SMU for Red Bandana night. I think you're looking at 1-11. I do want to give credit to Grayson James for playing the way he did. Rusty hadn't played since the Pinstripe Bowl last year. Missed some open receivers, really open receivers at times in the red zone, but didn't turn the ball over. Gave that team a chance to win. They were up 2017 at the half. I think you stick with him.
Yeah, you have to. You can't play musical chairs at quarterback at this point, unless he struggles, and then you don't have a choice but to go back to Lonergan.
But at that point, I don't even think that helps you. So it's a combination of everything right now. But the people that want O'Brien gone, you're out of your mind. and I know we're going to keep saying this for probably the next 5 weeks until the season's over. A, you're not going to do better. And B, you have to let him get his classes in here. This is his first real recruiting class. Again, we keep going back to it. Yes, you need to buy some kids in the portal. Yes, you need to recruit out of the area, but you need to let him have time. Like, this is going to take time. He keeps reiterating it, and he sounds like he's pitching for his job last Tuesday when he had quite the passionate press conference. But he's not wrong. This takes time to build a program, and if you're going to get rid of him in 2 years, you're just going to set the program back even further. So that should be out of the question for most BC fans. I hear BC fans saying they're going to give up season tickets, all that kind of stuff, and that's you're right. But at some point, again, I said this last week, if you don't want to be a revolving door program, you got to let this guy recruit and do what he can. But now your fear as a fan should not be paying for a buyout. It should be, does he want to leave? Because if you're him, with all the stuff that we just talked about, is it worth the hassle? Like, I think he could easily get a role in the NFL in 2 minutes if he really wanted
Right,
it.
but the thing is, he's making $5 million a year in Boston.
Exactly.
Is he going to
So,
get that to coordinate? He's not going to be a head coaching candidate.
yeah,
Not that he couldn't be. He's not going to be a head coaching candidate in the NFL more than likely in this upcoming cycle this
yeah,
offseason. I'm sure he
but
could get an offensive coordinator job if he wanted. He
and
could
that's
potentially be a head coaching candidate at another college or university. There'll be plenty of openings. That remains to be seen. But even if he
yeah,
is, are you going to make a lateral move? And are you making $5 million a year? And let's not forget, Boston College is still in the ACC. It's a Power
mhm,
Four conference, Power Four school. Unless you make a lateral move for the same money to another Power Four school, he's not leaving here to go become a head coach somewhere else. So he'll be
hey,
back next year, right? For a variety of reasons. I think that the administration agrees with what you're saying, that they have to give him time. And the other part of it is this is a school that's notorious for not wanting to pay buyouts. They're not going to pay
yeah.
the buyout. So
The
anybody
only
who thinks
reason,
Bill O'Brien should be fired or is going to get fired should probably check themselves before they wreck themselves.
well, personally, I don't feel like covering another coaching search. That was brutal. But the only reason I would be slightly worried about it is if he says, I'm done. Like, if I'm fighting battles with the people above me to help make this program what we want it to be, then it's not worth the hassle. That's, as a fan, what I would be worried about.
Yeah, Sam checks back in. Love him. He's talking about O'Brien, not you, Stone. So just thought I'd
Could be
clarify.
both.
I don't think he loves you. I'm just going to go on a limb. I think he likes you, but I definitely don't think he loves you.
Fair.
Um, anyway, I agree with you. I think it would be foolish to move on from him, and I don't think that they want to or are going to.
I don't
Even if
either.
they end up 1-11, 2-10, I don't think they're inclined to do that. It's part of it is the buyout, but the other part of it is what you said. You've got to give him the time to get this going, and I'll take it a step further. And this is another point you made that I thought was spot on. You don't want to become a revolving door program, and we're so quick nowadays to push coaches out the door and want to fire people. We're not even willing to give guys a year anymore. You're already hearing this gibberish with Harris Simiak at UMass, which we're going to get to here in a sec. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Love Stone too, and my boy John. So, in fact, Sam Knox does, in fact, love you, Sam. You're a good man. I work with Stone every day, and I don't love him, but somebody's got to, so it might as well be you, buddy.
I'll see you
I'm
Sunday,
kidding.
Sam.
Oh, look at that. He's moved on from me. Stone's ready to go work with Sam. But no, you bring up a great point in all seriousness. It's not going to happen. And again, I get people are temperatures are running high right now. People are upset. They're pissed.
And
They're
it shouldn't
going
look
for
this way.
yeah,
Like, I'll say that.
yeah.
It should not look this bad.
No, it shouldn't. I agree. And I think people have every right to be pissed. And alumni, season ticket holders, student body, everybody has every right to be pissed. They shouldn't be as bad as they are. No one saw this coming. None of us did. I mean, I thought they were going to be their customary 6-6, 7-5. If you had told me after 7 weeks they'd be 1-6 and coming off the heels of a 15-point loss to UConn, I would have told you need to be drug tested. I mean, I didn't see this coming. None of us did. But the reality is this is the boat that they're in right now, and they need to keep moving forward. They got 5 games left this season, and they need to become more competitive. and stay in the mix. But to say that he needs to be fired, I just think that that's foolish. It really is. And people need to pump the brakes. It's a lost season. We already know they're not winning out. They're not going to make a bowl game. Now it's about playing for pride, trying to get some momentum going so that you can go into next season with momentum. But
It's about attracting recruits too.
yeah, well, it's going to be hard to do, man. If you're coming
Very.
off a 1-11, 2-10 season, it's going to be hard to do, no matter who's coaching the team. So,
But the
even
good
if
thing
you
is,
were to make a change, the next guy, they're not necessarily going to be able to turn it around in year one either. So it's going
no,
to take more than that.
but I do think, speaking about playing Notre Dame and SMU and Georgia Tech, they're all ranked. So you're going to have eyes on your product. The best you can do right now is at least show you're competitive.
Yeah, and I still think that this team has enough pride and talent where I could see them beating an SMU. I could see them beating
Especially
a
Red Band the
Syracuse.
other night. Yeah.
Right. I could see them beating a Georgia Tech, man. That they can still look, if you win 4 games, you salvage this season as far as I'm concerned. It's not
100%.
what you wanted. It's a disappointment, but you salvaged it. They can still be competitive. They can be competitive on Saturday night. Louisville, yes, they're coming off a win over Miami of Florida, but you can go down there and compete with those guys. So really the only game out of their last 5 where you can definitively say they're not going to win more than likely is that Notre Dame game. Outside of that, they can compete with all those teams if they come to play and they have a good plan. So we'll see. UMass, I will say this.
It's actually funny now.
Well, I feel bad for the fan base.
No, I do too.
They lost their minds after the Kent State game. They lost their minds after this game, although some of them I think have become comfortably numb with the fact that this program is in a place where it's very easy to say they're never going to be good again. But I have defended Joe Harasimiak at every turn. I have, because there's been a lot of people in that fan base that have been calling for his termination at the end of the season. And I'm still not going to go there because I still think he deserves another year, an opportunity to get another recruiting class in and to build a program. I think he deserves more than another year. That being said, I have never, and I talked about this with Herb Devine on Sunday, I have never seen a coach mismanage or staff mismanage the end of the game like that game was on Saturday. You have 40-something seconds left. You pick off a pass on 4th down, 21-20. All you got to do now is kill the clock. You pick up a win. You get to win the inaugural flagship cup, which, by the way, they still don't have a trophy for that. So I don't know what they were going to give them. Were they going to give them a piece of paper with the trophy specs on it? I don't know. I have no idea. It's vintage UMass at this point. But, and by the way, UMass was responsible for producing the trophy. So that's at least that's what's out there. But they mismanaged the end of that game. Buffalo comes back, scores a touchdown, goes for 2 and gets it and wins 28-21. I don't understand how you can mismanage the situation there the way they did. I think it falls on them. Areva Fernandez was there today for Harasimiak's presser. Harasimiak, quote, said all the right things, but I think at the end of the day, man, you got to own this one. You can sit there and say, look, the kids are working hard. They're trying. Our coaches are working hard. We're just not good enough. But when you botch the end of a game like they did on Saturday, that falls on him. That falls on his staff. And he's got to wear this one because the criticism this week is 100% warranted. That was bad, and it reflects poorly on him as far as I'm concerned.
So I'll start with the positive. They were in it against Buffalo. Like, they should have beaten Buffalo, which I don't think anybody saw coming. That Buffalo team was 2-0 in the MAC coming into that game and 3-3 fighting for first place. So on the one hand, you're improving enough to be in that game and really to win it for all intents and purposes. But then now the coaching implodes. Not the players, the coaching. So at this point, I just think maybe they're just doomed for failure for the rest of their FBS lives. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say at this point. But to your point, I think he'll own it. I think he'll own it behind closed doors to his players. But it's a learning point, I guess. I mean, what else can you call it other than, well, typical UMass is what you can really call it. But he's going to just have to learn from it. And look, the kid who had the penalty, he flat out said post game, it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen as a coach. So it is on the players as well.
It is, and I think unfortunately that is a reflection of the
Oh, the
type of
coach, yeah,
program he's running. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Um,
it's not a good look.
but so they're getting ridiculed nationally, which is never a good thing. You know, you had Mark Bertrand, who's a UMass alum, on Zoe and Bertrand today, just ripping the program, saying, I'm now embarrassed to even be out in public and talk about UMass. That's where they're at, and that's the problem. Because, you know, talking about BC not supporting UMass financially, this program needs all the money it can get. This is not how you help
Right,
donations
but
by any means.
listen, we talked about this last week. The
Yeah,
I'm tired of the UMass crowd too, sitting here telling me about every time they talk about the state of the program. It starts with firing Bamford, firing the coach, firing
yeah,
this person, firing that person. Bottom line is, look, you can fire people every single year and bring in new people. This is a program that has had 3 coaches in the last 6 years. You can sit there and fire a coach every single year if you want. You can fire the AD every single year if you want. If people aren't putting their money where their mouth is, it's not going to matter. This program needs an upgraded facilities.
yep.
This program needs a more legitimate NIL initiative. They need to be competitive in the portal financially against other schools that they're competing against. If they're not going to have those resources, I don't care who the AD is. I don't care who the football coach is. You're not going to win. It doesn't matter. You're on your 3rd coach in 6 years. So the idea that firing this guy, he's an idiot or whatever he said today, yeah, that's not the solution. So stop with the firing nonsense. Okay, you need stability. What you need to do is put your money where your mouth is and start putting money into the program. Or quite frankly, I don't want to hear from any of these people because all they do is bump their gums and say stupid shit, but they don't put their money where their mouth is. So why don't you do that? Because guess
Well,
what? They're not going to fire Bamford. Okay, realistically speaking, they're not.
no,
Okay, now he may fire Harrison Mack. I don't know. I can't speak to that, but I will say this: more than likely, if you're expecting major changes up top, I don't see it happening.
no, in fairness, Bamford just got you into the back. So, he's, as much as people want to crap on him,
He's hated there, man.
brutal. But again, he just
He's
got you into a
hated there,
conference.
and
So,
again, I'm not entering that fray. I'm just saying, even if you get rid of him, okay, and whatever, if you can build a case to do it, have
it
that.
doesn't change. It doesn't
Right?
change systematic
No,
losing.
it doesn't. It
Um,
doesn't.
but my original point was this type of game or this type of game at home doesn't help you get money from the people that are supposedly supposed to be helping you out.
Well, the other
It's
problem
a,
is you're a state school. You can get all the
that
money you
too.
want from alumni and your support
Yeah,
groups. You still need money from the state. And as we said last week,
yeah.
what's the return on investment here? Why should the state pump $50 million into McGuirk and an indoor facility? And in essence, you're putting that money into the football program. Why would the state do that? One. And two, it's Massachusetts, man. We're not
Mhm.
talking about Texas here. We're not talking about Florida or California or even some other states. It's Massachusetts.
Yeah.
This state, this government is not going to spend that kind of money on this athletic department and this football program. They're just not. So
Well, I'd
they're in
like to.
a quandary, man. They're in a quandary. You can fire people all you want. This program has bigger issues than just the people involved in it.
Well, we need to publicly thank both Ryan Barry and Ava Fernandez for covering this team the way they have this year, because it is not easy.
No, it is not. But then again, you've sat through the Boston College situation. It is what it is.
It is.
So,
It's still not as bad though. But who would have ever thought that of the
but
big
you have
three?
a lot of people, as we said earlier, in that fan base that are clamoring for a coaching change. So
Yeah, but who would have ever thought 3 years ago we'd be talking about UConn as the best of the big three in New England? It's crazy.
it is, but it speaks to the power of hiring the right guy, but it also speaks to the power of support. And if you support your coach, you support the staff, you give them what they need to be successful, they are going to be successful. I don't believe that Boston College isn't giving Bill O'Brien what he needs to be successful. I think where they're falling short is something that you've said for a while now, and I agree with you. They've got to put more money into NIL in the portal. And if they do that and they get better players, they loosen up their admissions process a little bit, they'll be better. The problem with UMass is it doesn't matter what your admissions process is. Even if you had a better NIL initiative and you had more money, I'm not sure it would matter. The program is not that appealing right now. It's the worst program in FBS football. It's going to be hard to turn this thing around. Harris Simiak's a good coach. I know people are going to say, you think he's a good coach after Saturday. I still think he's a good coach. They mismanaged the end of that game. I'm not going to sit here and defend him one bit for that. It all falls on him and his staff. But, again, you can get rid of him. Who are you going to bring in that's going to want to be here? This isn't exactly a destination job. So, again, people need to pump the brakes. You can be passionate about your school and your football team, but let's be realistic here. I mean, you're in the same neighborhood as the Kent States, the Akrons, all these programs that struggle on a year-to-year basis. You're in that same neighborhood with them. They don't get high-end coaches. You like Harris Simiak walk, you're not going to get a high-end coach either. So one thing I will say that UMass does have as an advantage is he's making a couple million a year. They pay better than those schools. So they might be able to attract a decent candidate. But again, I don't think you want to go there again. I think they need to give him another year and see what he can do at least. All right, real quick here, we're talking about high school football. Of course, on Friday night here in Massachusetts, you were at the game of probably the year. CM at Xaverian. Xaverian winning 25-22 on a last-second field goal. So much to unpack there. Great game. First time that Xaverian beat CM in 8 years. Of course, Drake May was there. That's been getting a lot of play. You hung out with Drake May. A lot of people thought you were his bodyguard from what I've heard. I don't know if that's true. But it was one hell of an atmosphere and one hell of a night there on Clapboard Tree Street in Westwood.
It was the best Massachusetts has to offer. That's really the best way I can put it. I was at Gillette Stadium earlier in the day, left there early, got there about 4 o'clock, ate dinner in my car, but you could feel just sort of
and
a
when
big
you ate
game.
dinner at your car, what did you have?
Roast beef sandwich, homemade. I gotta stay healthy.
Get the hell out of here. You bought it homemade.
Well, cold cuts.
What do you act like you have a carving station in your kitchen? Homemade.
Cold cuts.
Oh, okay. You made it at home. You made yourself a roast beef sandwich.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, I'm huge.
Do you have a carving station? Are you sitting there with one of those serrated knives?
I just said cold cuts.
Over the pot roast.
Market Basket didn't trim cold cuts. They're phenomenal. So look, you could feel the atmosphere there from 4:30.
I will say,
hats
tip to you for making yourself a sandwich. I mean, it's kind of dorky, but I commend you for it.
Well, it's from 15 years of eating Wendy's out of my car for the Metro West Daily News. I can't be doing that anymore. But
no,
what?
No, you're old now.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So, look, to get back to the game, the atmosphere was palpable really from 4:30 on. Place was packed. Joe Mazzulla was there, obviously watching his son. A bunch of Patriots players had told me in the locker room that day that they were going for another assistant coach. I didn't see them. They're large human beings and hard to miss. But Mike Vrabel confirmed today on the radio that there were other guys there. Drake May was the only one that actually walked down onto the field. Real quick, a side note on him. The aura that kid has around him is truly face of the franchise. Everybody wants a piece of him. Kids were sprinting up to get selfies and autographs. Really just the reaction to him was awesome and really cool to see as sort of that next big thing for the Patriots. But the game itself, man, CM and Xaverian, just the two names alone, that sells tickets. So, packed house, awesome game. CM had trouble stopping the run really all night long. But the kid that stood out the most to me was Christian McIntyre from Xaverian. He's the 3 games I've covered them now. He's everywhere. He had a huge pass breakup late in the game for Xaverian against CM, throwing deep. He had a pass from quarterback Will Wood on a huge conversion late in the game on the game-winning drive. Field goal by, why is his name escaping me right now? Oh, Xander, I don't want to mispronounce this, Gavostis, I believe it is. His kick was money right from the time it left his foot. just an incredible atmosphere. Again, really just the best that Massachusetts has to offer. Legitimately, too, with arguably the two best teams in the state. You can put Springfield Central and St. John's Prep in that conversation, of course, as well as King Philip and a few other schools. But really, just a true showcase and just an awesome night for Massachusetts football. Fox 25, Butch Stearns was there. Channel 5, Josh Brogadier was there. Um, Again, just everything that's right with high school football on full display in Westwood the other night.
Yeah, and going around New England and some of the other big matchups, LaSalle beat St. Ray's. Big win for Dan Copen's squad. St. Ray's looks to be the favorite in D2, so that was a nice win for them in Pawtucket. Big win there. A couple big games down in Connecticut. Killingly continues to roll. They beat Massac big. Fairfield Prep also won. They beat Maloney in a big game there. You go up to Maine. Kennebunk beating Marshwood in convincing fashion there. Vermont, you had Hartford beat Rutland. Hartford has really set itself up in Division II. They're not only the favorite in Division II, but they're poised to win it all and finish as the number one team in the state in Vermont. Of course, they're going into the last week of the regular season up there. Playoffs begin next week. You had a couple big games. Bedford beating Bishop Girton up in New Hampshire in a big game there. Andover going up to Pinkerton and picking up a big win. That's a signature win for Jay Fielding in his first year at Andover. Of course, they got a big one this week against Central Catholic. So a lot of really good games this week in New England that had not only record implications and playoff implications, but seeding implications as well. Of course, here in Massachusetts, we only have 2 weeks left in the regular season, and then it's playoff time the first weekend in November. So it's hard to believe. We're going to give you our weekly, disclaimer. Oh, it goes by so fast. Oh. All right, final thoughts here, Stone, before we wrap it up.
Yeah, just a couple college things we didn't get to. Holy Cross got their first win, so congrats to Dan Curran. That was
nice win on the road at Richmond.
Really kind of surprising. But they did it with the running game, which is big and something I think they're going to need all year until they can really sort of figure out the quarterback situation in the offseason. And then Harvard is just an absolute wagon. I know they played Merrimack. Merrimack played them tough, but they still ended up blowing them out in the end. They're 5-0. They're ranked 13th in the country. I expect them to be in the FCS playoffs and probably the Ivy League champion. I really do. And then URI, again, they rolled. I forget who they played. Yes, thank you.
Of course, yes.
A down Albany team, but they're unbeaten in the CAA as well. So and CCSU stayed on top of the NEC. So a few playoff teams that we might have here coming down the stretch. But you said it, man. We're coming down the end, and as always, we appreciate the support. We'll be in 3 states on Friday night, covering 8 games. So the more support we can get from you guys, the better.
Yeah, and even to your point about the 8 games on Friday night, some big ones. You got North Attleboro, Mansfield, huge game in the Hockomock League. In the Davenport, you have Andover and Central Catholic here in Massachusetts. Down in Connecticut, you have New Canaan, Greenwich. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that. St. Joe's and Darien on Saturday. We'll be at both of those games. You've got a lot of big games coming up.
Avon and Dexter, both 6-0.
And then Avon Old Farms and Dexter on Saturday evening should be a good one, of course. John Hooley brought up the Winged Beavers a few weeks back. They beat BBNN, so that's going to be a huge NEPSAC game on Saturday. So lots and lots of great high school coverage here at New England Football Journal, so make sure you're following along. And as Kevin said, the best way that we can get out there and cover games and produce more content is if you support us. And the best way to support us is by subscribing. If you visit anyfootballjournal.com, you go over to the subscription tab, click on it for $2.99 a month. You get some of the best high school and college football coverage in New England. We also provide you with some of the best Patriots coverage in New England as well. We know you have a lot of options there and a lot of great options, might I add. But you know what? If you're looking for something different, we've got you covered there as well. So, again, go over to anyfootballjournal.com, hit the subscribe tab, subscribe for $2.99 a month. It's worth it for all the coverage that you get. If you're willing to give up a cup of coffee a month, again, like I said, it's worth it. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin Stone, I'm John Sarianides. We will be back with you next week. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe.